Oh my goodness, Kraken Week is still going strong. This is a joint collaboration by a bunch of creators to focus on ocean and seafaring TTRPG topics this week to mirror Shark Week. But we all know that Krakens are way cooler than sharks, so I'm expecting Kraken Week to quickly become the more popular cultural touchstone, obviously. I'm GM Jim, and today we're going to talk about my favorite piratey tabletop game adventure, and that is Salvage Operation, a level 4 one-shot written by Mike Mearls for 4th edition Dungeons & Dragons. This adventure has been updated for 5e, but could easily be adapted to just about any tabletop system. I'm going to give you the basics of the module, talk about how to run it easily, and explain the modifications I've used. Cool? Cool. Let's dig in. Salvage Operation came out in 2005 and was published in Dungeon Magazine number 123. It was later republished in Ghosts of Saltmarsh, the 5th edition adventure collection. I'll include a link below to where you can find the original on the Internet Archive website if you're not interested in giving Wizards of the Coast your money. Also, if you want to learn more about Ghosts of Saltmarsh and other seafaring things for Kraken Week, check out videos by my friends Verdigree Table and the Dire Den, which I'll link to at the end of this video. Here's a brief overview of the adventure with big spoilers, obviously. A derelict ship named the Emperor of the Waves has become lost at sea and your party is sent to salvage it. Particularly, they're looking for a chest with a special MacGuffin in it. They find the ship, go aboard, and explore. Across the multiple decks, the party has several combat encounters, ultimately one against an evil druid. They eventually find the MacGuffin, but then the real encounter begins. An enormous sea creature attacks the ship, and the party has to hightail it out of there to get back to their transport ship and escape before the enemy sinks the Emperor's ship. It's pretty simple, but that simplicity allows us plenty of room to adapt it however we want to add in our own hooks and NPCs. I've run this adventure multiple times. For the initial hook, the adventure as written offers two. Some 1%er named Obrek Dralian has several property deeds which he stored in a chest aboard the Emperor of the Waves. So he's hiring the party to locate the missing ship and get these deeds back. The second hook, which could also just be an additional side quest of the first hook, is there's rumored to be some special magic item or other important thing in that chest with the deeds. The last time I ran this, the party had a sort of patron who was a crime boss, and the ship had been stolen by a disgruntled former employee who was now on the run. So the crime boss hired the PCs to track down the ship and deal with this former employee, as well as recover a particular lockbox somewhere on board. I consider this adventure to be in 3 acts. The first act is locating the ship, the second is the exploration and combat, and the third is the great escape. Let's look at each one individually. The first act is the one where you can have the most variability in session length. If you want to get it over with quickly to fit this all in a single evening, just make it so the party knows exactly where the derelict Emperor of the Waves is. They go to the docks, hire someone with a different ship to take them to the location, and get on to the second act. Or if you want to turn this one shot into a 2 or 3 shot, you could easily stretch out this first act. You can make it so they have to work at finding a ship at the docks. Maybe there's a massive boat race happening right now, so most of the available ships are spoken for. And the only ship left in port, a ratty old pirate ship, is captained by someone who needs convincing to take you out. You have to win them over somehow with games of chance or by completing some other task. Maybe the ship is full of sturges that first need to be exterminated. Maybe the captain has a crush on a local bartender but is too shy to ask for a date. So you have to help the captain build up the courage or something like that. This would effectively be like an Act 0 to even gain transport out to sea. Hey, since I have you, could I get a like and subscribe below? It only takes a second, and make sure to click all next to notifications. And then once the party is on their way, you can turn this into an ocean hex crawl with lots of random encounters. Shark attacks, merfolk, whatever. You could make it very challenging to locate the Emperor. Also, fill the transport ship with NPCs who all have individual goals and give the party a chance to interact with them along the way. Maybe there's a brewing mutiny aboard this vessel and the party can become embroiled in it. Give the crew plenty of requests for things they need help with back on the mainland to provide future plot hooks the party can pursue after, if they choose. or simply have this transport ship quickly take them where they need to go. Totally up to you and your table. Either way, once they have located the Emperor of the Waves, the first act is concluded. The last time I ran this though, I added a little wrinkle. I made it so when they spotted the ship, they also noticed a tumultuous storm rolling in from the east. I wanted to give them a timer so they wouldn't dilly-dally or try to rest while on the ship. They see the storm and know they only have about an hour to explore and then they have to get out. Of course, the party has no idea that the real threat, a giant octopus, is going to make that timer irrelevant later, but we'll get to that in Act 3. So the party takes a small rowboat from the transport ship over to the Emperor of the Waves. They're told to go on board, do their thing, and then signal the transport ship, which will be anchored 500 feet away. This info will be very important later. The adventure says this about the Emperor. Its masts have been shorn off, but the upper deck appears clear of debris as if whatever hit the ship was strong enough to carry off the masts, sails, and rigging. Its figurehead, once a majestic angel in flight, has been hacked and disfigured. This is hinting that the octopus has attacked before as some cryptic foreshadowing for Act 3. Anyway, the party boards the Emperor, and now we get to the real meat of Act 2. The ship is relatively small with only 12 rooms. And now we should talk about the vibe. The ship is spooky, it creaks, it leans to the port side. If you can, have the party discover it at night to add to the spookiness. It's cramped, musty, and everything is covered in cobwebs. Maybe there are corpses of the dead former crew around. Maybe not, that's up to you. Let's do a quick review of room by room. The forecastle, quarterdeck, and room number 1 here on the main deck are empty. Stuff should be broken everywhere, giving the PCs a chance to explore and do some investigating. There are signs of a battle or other great destruction, all hinting at the octopus attack to come. There's a grate in the main deck allowing them to see down below to get some hints about what's down there. Rooms 2 and 3 are both going to have stairs leading down to the lower deck, and both are going to have combat encounters. The adventure puts ettercaps and giant spiders in both of these, but you can really toss in whatever monsters you want. If you don't want the spider stuff, you can use Sahuagin, or Merfolk, or whatever to keep a consistent theme. But the main point here is that these are not tough encounters. They should be quick and easy. And the reason we're doing this is that we want to get the PCs to spend resources but not feel like they need to rest in between combats. We want them to be good and spent by the time the big third act encounter finally arrives. On the lower deck, we have a bunch of small and cramped rooms. Number 6 up at the top is the food storage with an easy encounter there. Numbers 7, 8, and 9 are cabins, and you can throw in a few clues about the ship or the encounter awaiting in room 10. And in room 10 is what the players will think is the boss encounter. In the written adventure, this is Krell, a druid cultist who is doing some kind of freaky ritual in the name of Lolth. You could make this person whoever you want, doing whatever you want, because it's ultimately a red herring before the real boss battle still to come. The point is to get your PCs to use up those precious resources, yummy, delicious resources. If they think this is the boss, they won't hold back. After that encounter, the party will be searching around for the chest with the property deeds or whatever MacGuffin you used to get them onto the ship in the first place. But it's not on this floor, obviously, it's down in the cargo hold. And once they're down there, this area is half flooded, listing back and forth from port to starboard, making it difficult terrain. It's dark and there are ghasts hiding at the far end, but I would not have these ghasts attack, and you'll see why in just a minute. But finally, at the north end of the cargo hold is a massive chest with the MacGuffin in it, and as soon as the PCs spot the chest, we now end Act 2 and move on to Act 3, which is the main event. The adventure text gives us this backstory. Shortly after Emperor of the Waves was drifting on the open sea, an enormous elder octopus began to stalk the ship. It has already attacked the vessel once, and that assault worsened the Emperor's condition, opening up a few leaks that are now causing the hold to flood. Believing that if it waits long enough, the wreck will eventually sink beneath the surface, the octopus has remained in the area, lurking in the water 100 feet below. So the octopus, or Kraken, or whatever giant sea creature you want to use, has been now alerted by the fighting on board and moves in to attack the ship again. It doesn't particularly care about the PCs and shrugs off their attacks. It wants to destroy the ship. Now, when I've run this, as soon as I've finished describing how the creature starts smacking the ship with its huge tentacles, I tell the players not to fight it. I say this is an ancient and powerful creature and you have no hope of killing it. I just don't want the PCs to die off here thinking that they can whittle down its hit points. I suppose if you're running this for high enough level characters, they might be able to, but as written, it's for 4th level PCs, so I feel like it's a warranted warning. Within the fiction, I think the characters would realize it's time to hightail it out of here. And now, we roll initiative. So the first choice the PCs face is what to do about the chest with the MacGuffin in it. I made it clear it's a massive chest, very heavy, too big to stuff into a bag of holding. Maybe the PCs can shove it into a portable hole, but that will take combined effort during a round or two of the encounter. They can search it for particular things, but that will also take time. I filled the chest with all kinds of irresistible treasure to tempt them into spending a round digging, while the cargo hold quickly floods from the creature continually lashing it. The adventure includes mechanics for escaping shown here. It's all difficult terrain because it's flooding, and the octopus attacks on initiative count 20 each round. The PCs will need dex saves to avoid being thrashed around and taking bludgeoning damage. And now here is why I said before that the ghasts shouldn't previously attack, because those creatures, as well as any other creature aboard that the party hasn't already killed, are going to want to try to flee. They'll mainly just be in the way. They want to get up those rope ladders and stairs too, providing plenty of obstacles for the PCs. I made it so the dex save DC increased each round and tossed the PCs hard to the port side of the ship if they failed. The adventure lists a round-by-round account of what should happen, but the goal here is for the PCs to reach the main deck so they can signal their transport ship. Remember when I said it would be important later that the ship was anchored 500 feet away? Because once the transport ship is signaled, it takes the rowboats several rounds to reach the ship to rescue the PCs. On the main deck, they'll have to contend with attacks from the octopus, as well as possibly fighting the ghasts or any other surviving enemies who will want to commandeer that rowboat for themselves. The ship is tilting, sinking, and combat here is going to be tricky. And finally, the rowboat arrives and the PCs escape with or without the MacGuffin they came to retrieve. Once they're off the Emperor, don't make the giant sea creature pursue them. For whatever reason, this octopus just really hates that ship, and that's that. They're back on the transport ship, sailing back to port, tending to their wounds. Finally, let's talk about next steps. It's entirely up to you if this sea creature was just mindlessly attacking, or if this is an intelligent enemy who might come up again if this adventure turns out to be part of a larger campaign. Could be an epic big bad for higher tier play. Another good hook here is if the PCs manage to grab a few fistfuls of treasure from the chest in the cargo hold, include some other MacGuffin among that as a plot hook, strange sentient weapon or something like that to tie into future adventures. Maybe a member of the crew recognizes it and links it to something they were talking about on the way out there to locate the derelict ship. Either way, Salvage Operation is a tight one-shot with nice surprises, lots of room to add your own flavor, and some very intense moments. I hope you'll consider running this as a solo session or dropping it into your campaign. And while you're browsing YouTube, check out the many other Kraken Week offerings from the other YouTubers I teamed up with. Lots of killer content going around this week. So until next time, I'm GM Jim, now avast ye landlubbers!